Hello everybody. In this episode we're going to be talking about how to troubleshoot your tankless water heater. Now when you get the call from the homeowner, there's a couple questions you need to ask them. And the big one is it the whole house that you don't have hot water, or is it just a particular fixture? Now if they say it's just a particular fixture, then you know you need to go to that fixture. If it's a faucet or a kitchen sink or something like that, you might have a little bit of sand or dirt in the aerator, something choking that flow down. A lot of times they say it's just the master shower. Well, then you got to go to your master shower and look at your shower head first. A lot of times we run into people leave these little water saver things in here, and they're a little blue or a little pink thing. You need to get that out, or at least pull that little O-ring that's in there out, and that will make this where it's not functioning anymore and gets that flow rate back up. That's an issue with these water heaters. They have to maintain a certain flow rate. If they don't have that certain amount of flow rate, if something's choking them down, it's going to shut down on them. It's going to go hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. It's not really going to know what it needs to do. So you got to keep those flow rates up. Now, if they tell you it's the whole house, now you know, okay, I've probably got a problem with my water heater. So the next question I would ask is it making any loud noises coming out of the controller and flashing some numbers at you? That's an error code. And an error code can point you a lot of times in the right direction. So I got a setup here. I've actually got a working heater here, got power, got gas, got water to it. So let's simulate one of the most common error codes, which is a code 11. I'm doing this just to show you what kind of noises and stuff this makes. So let's go ahead and turn the water on. Now if you were outside of a house, you can do it with your TMP here. I can't do that here because I'd have water all over the floor. So I've got a fixture turned on in our training center. You can probably hear it running in the background. My heater is actually working. It's got some good hot air coming out the top. We're flowing, we're doing everything. We're 120 degrees. Our little burner light is indicated here. So we're working. Well, what happens if I shut this gas off? Just go ahead and turn that gas off. All right, the heater's slowing down. Now it's cold air coming out of here. I can hear this heater clicking and ticking back and forth. That's the gas valve. Oh, there we go. Code 11. Beep, beep. That's a no gas. So if you've got a code 11, check that gas valve. You can turn the water supply off. It'll reset your code. Turn your gas valve on. Make sure your gas valve is on. And let's turn her back on again. There we go. She's firing. We got hot air coming out the top. Our controller is saying we're burning. We're making hot water. That was a really easy fix. Now, a lot of times that code 11 is caused by something else. That code 11 could be an air pocket in that gas line. And basically you would just need to purge the gas out of it or let it try to fire several times. Now there's some other issues. You got to keep your flow rate up, like I said. If your controller's giving you a beep beep and it's saying P1, P1, E1, that's going to be a flow rate issue. Now that could be dirt and sand somewhere. So at that point you would want to check this little filter under here. So I'm going to bring it in close and I'm going to show you what this little filter looks like. Alright, how to inspect and check your water filter. All of your tankless water heaters are going to have one of these little black filters here on the front of it. Now, the first thing you're going to do, turn off your isolation valves, both the hot and the cold. Then you're going to have to relieve the pressure on the water heater because you will never get this little screw out if you still got pressure on there. It'll be really, really hard. So go ahead and open that TMP. Just a little bit of water is going to come out the bottom because it's just what's in the top here. Most of these things are hand tight, but you might have to put a pair of pliers on it. It's a little black nut. You're going to unscrew it. Now water is going to come out of here. Water is going to drip out of the thing as it's relieving that pressure. Keep that TMP open during this so it can drain out. We've got a lot of water in it. All right, and there we go. We pull that thing out. See, that's a little filter screen, and it actually will pop off of here. Now your water's still onto the house. It's just isolated. It's just off at the isolation valves. We got it shut down right here at the heater. So now I can take this over to a hose bib and rinse it out. Make sure if it's got any pipe dope or thread sealant in there, you get all that trash out. You could have sand or some glue from the landscapers caught up in there. And then once you get it washed out, you put it back together, put it back up in here, and now, like I said, this is just hand tight. Now you want to get it tight, hand tight, but that's pretty much that. The next thing I would do here, turn the TMP off, turn my water supply back on. She's probably going to try to fire for just a second because we repressurized it. You can do all of this with the TMP, but I'm trying not to make too big of a mess here on the floor. So turn that on. We got our fixture running in there. It's blowing some air out right now. And this is what I like to do. Pop this valve on and off. On and off. You hear it kind of thunk, thunk. That thunk, thunk is telling you that the little propeller inside of here is freed up and it's spinning. If it's not spinning, this is not going to know to kick on. So that's some of the places to check. Let's go check another area that I found is a big one too. Now in the garage on all of our new construction houses, you're going to have one of these things. This is called a pressure regulating valve or pressure reducing valve, but essentially it's there to regulate the pressure. I've got this one adjusted right where I want it, but you adjust it by moving that bolt in and out. If you get there and that bolt is hanging way out to the side, it's never been adjusted. So you're choking down on your flow rate here. Now if it is in and you're still having some flow rate problems, you can take this apart, and there are screens in here as well that would also need to be cleaned out. But always check that in the garage. That's one of the first things I do when I walk up, because normally you're going to meet your homeowner at their garage because your controller is right there. Sometimes the water heater is on the inside in the garage, but it's located all right there at about the same area. So always look at that. If that bolt's hanging way out of the side, go ahead and adjust that up, put your gauge on it, see where you're at. All right, now I want to show you how to go back and look at some of your past error codes. Now at this point, you're probably beyond what you can do to service this water heater, and you might have to call tech support. All of these water heaters have a tech support warranty department, and they will walk you through everything. They are going to want you to have some special tools though. But here's our controller. This is for a ream. This one is really popular with our builders and homeowners and stuff nowadays. We use this one a lot, so you're going to see this controller. All the controllers work relatively the same, but the keystrokes are different. So to check your error codes, turn the power off. Now hold the up and down arrow at the same time for about 5 seconds. There we go. It's flashing E1. What does E1 mean? That's our first error code. And we had a code 11 because I was turning that gas on and off over there and getting this thing to beep for me. So to keep on going through your codes, push the down arrow. E2, error code number 2, it's an 11. Push the down arrow again. E3, code 11. One more time. E4, code 11. E5, well that one's different. E5, P1, what does P1 mean? P1 means you had a restricted flow. Something was causing this water heater to have a restricted flow, and it couldn't maintain its fire because of that flow restriction. Let's see. You should be able to store it there, and that's my last one. You should be able to have 8 error codes stored up to it. Once you get to that 9th or 10th error code, it's going to start losing those codes. But that's E6 dashes, means that's the end of our error code list. So now we kind of got a little better idea of what's going on with our water heater. These error codes are pretty much the same for all the water heaters. A code 11 is going to be a code 11 on a Noritz. It's going to be a code 11 on a Rinnai. It's going to be a code 11 on your Ream. It's going to be a code 11 on an A.O. Smith, a Takagi. All of them are all the same. Code 11 means no gas. There's also a code 12 out there, which means it was burning, it was doing everything it could, and then all of a sudden it lost its flame. But these codes are pretty specific. If you see one that you don't know what it is, call tech support or break out your manual, get on your phone, internet, see what that error code is. You could have a bad fan motor or something like that, although that is very rare. Normally our problems are sand in the filter, no gas, or somebody turned the power off. All these things have a switch on the side. For a disconnect, you're going to want to make sure the heater's plugged up or that switch is on. Sometimes the electricians are wrong and the switch is wired backwards. So always check that stuff. Now to clear your codes out and go back, you're just going to turn the power off, turn the power on. Well, sorry, turn the power off, turn the power. There we go, back on. 120. Now another thing that people ask a lot is how do I turn my tankless up? Here again, these keystrokes are going to be different, but the ream is the popular one. Now I've already unlocked this one. Once you unlock it, it's unlocked. But what you would do is you'd hold that up arrow down for about 4 or 5 seconds. The screen will start flashing 140 at you. You push the down arrow and then you let both of them go at the same time, and it will allow you to go on up to 140. Now a lot of people ask this. This is just some additional information. This water heater is an 8.4, which means it makes 8.4 gallons of hot water at a temperature rise of 60 degrees, which gets us to about 120. Water temperature's typically about 60 to 65 degrees coming out of the city's water supply or a well. If you go up to 140, you're basically going to cut that in half. Now you've only got about 4 gallons, 4.5 gallons a minute of hot water. So now you're starting, you can't run 2 showers now, you know. So it's better just to leave it at 120, 125, but you don't really want to go all the way up to 140 because you're cutting what that water heater can do. You're messing with its performance. Now some more about that P1. The reason why that P1 code was on here was because some of the training center hadn't been trimmed out. So let's go talk about that. All right, now what gave me that P1 code, which was that restricted flow earlier today, which was causing my water heater not to work for me, this delta valve. All these delta valves come with a little cap, and it's kind of your test cap for your rough end. The rough end valve for delta doesn't have the cartridge already in it like a lot of the other valves do. So basically, it was a hollow cavity here, and the hot and cold were just allowed to swirl and mix in there, and that's what was taking that flow rate away from the water heater and causing it to give me that P1 code. So if you've ever got a house that's got an unfinished basement, or I ran into little dog showers that they didn't finish, and it's just the delta valve sitting there with this little cap in it, you're gonna have to put a valve cartridge in it to block that hot and cold so they're not connected anymore. But keep an eye out for things like this. The other week we had where we had to move a water heater and it has that loop on it. Well, they didn't cut the old loop out. They left that hot and cold tied together, and they got to trim, and they put the water heater in the new location, but they never went back and capped off that loop. So we had a connection where hot and cold was mixing, and we couldn't get any hot water out of the heater. So always be looking for that, looking for things crossed up, looking for these valves missing. Most of the time this stuff's going to be trimmed out, and you're not going to have to worry about that. That's going to do it for this episode on how to troubleshoot your tankless water heater.